So remember that video I did a couple days ago about the big digital plan announcement for Dungeons and Dragons? Well, I'm going to talk about it right now. No intro, it's going to be a short video. It's kind of not anything that any of us were hoping for. So let's go take a look. Here's the article. It's video games. That's what it is. What video games they are, we don't really have any information. So for those of you who don't know, New York Toy Fair is happening right now. So it starts, I think, on Thursday or Friday of this week, and it's going through till Sunday. And it's basically a gathering and a get-together where a bunch of toy companies, it's a really big toy expo, where toy companies get together to show off what their new products are. So, for example, Hasbro owns Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering, and they are a toy company, so they are there in their capacity showing off toys. However, in previous years, Dungeons and Dragons goes there and has a presence, as does other companies that make toys and things and minis, like WizKids, for example, who I do mini unboxings for. WizKids is there showing off their new sets of minis and things like that. So, Wizards of the Coast CEO Chris Cox announced at an investor event at New York Toy Fair that Wizards of the Coast and various partners were developing 7 new digital video games based on D&D. 2 of those we already know are one is Baldur's Gate 3, and the other is that Dark Alliance game that looks like complete garbage in that video. If you saw it at the Video Game Awards, where it's like Drizzt and Bruner, and they're running like this, and it's like weird first person. I don't know. It looks really bad from the video that I saw. I hope that was just test footage. Right, we know what Baldur's Gate 3 is. So, he noted that over 65% of PC/console RPG fans had a positive brand awareness of Dungeons and Dragons. I think everybody knows what D&D is at this point, or has brand awareness. Now, it does state positive brand awareness, so I guess that means they're receiving it well. And I think largely things like Critical Role, and for people who don't do Twitch and that kind of a thing, Stranger Things made people, if they weren't already aware that Dungeons and Dragons existed, those shows and things painted in a positive light. So Wizards decided to up their digital plans in the coming years. This is that big announcement. I don't think it's that big. They're making 5 video games. So from reading through it, it sounds like it's going to be a game a year for 5 years. I think that's outside of Dark Alliance. Release 1 new video game between now and 2025. So a game a year. So that's it, right? We were hoping for a new book. We've only heard about Wildmount. We only heard about that recently. We knew that there was a book in development at the end of last year that was an adventure compilation book written by a bunch of other like celebrities and content creators. That's nowhere to be seen. I don't know. I can give you the full investor call. I don't think it's that interesting personally. So that's it. It's 5 new video games. The real question is, what do you think those 5 video games are going to be? We already know we're getting Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know what Dark Alliance is supposed to be. It might be a first-person hack-em-up game. It might be like a Gauntlet Legends beat-em-up old school, taking the 2D beat-em-up side-scrolling game and making it 3D. I don't know what it's supposed to be. So here's what my thoughts are, or what I would recommend to Wizards of the Coast were they to make new video games. 1, with the popularity of mobile games, and I know this is going to piss a lot of people off, but hear me out, right? The popularity of mobile games, the popularity of things like Hearthstone and Magic the Gathering Arena, they could make a Dungeons and Dragons digital card game thing. Or maybe do an integration with like a Magic the Gathering set that's D&D themed. Maybe you make 3 Dragon Ante, the card game that exists in D&D that is a board game. Maybe you make a digital version of that. I don't want it, personally. I probably wouldn't play it either. But it's a smart business move to make a consumable, phone game. They have their Warriors of Waterdeep game. I tried it. I don't really like it. So anyway, you have that. Another one that I suggest is a real-time strategy game. Again, I'm not really a real-time strategy fan. I played a lot of StarCraft 1 when it first came out. But real-time strategy games don't really interest me, but they interest a large group of people. And I don't know for a fact, but I imagine, people that are really into that may not be aware of D&D or not as interested in it. But the thought process is, excuse me, get people into the digital game so that they'll go and buy the books and play the physical game, the RPG that we're all playing. So cell phone games and mobile games and card games are very popular. That's a good way to get a whole bunch of new people to, oh, D&D, let me go play this fun new game, and then, oh, look, there's a whole other thing with these books that I can go play. So that's one. I think the real-time strategy, same thing, right? You got a ton of different factions, right? The humans, the elves, the dwarves, drow, gnomes. I don't know. You don't have to theme it on the Sword Coast, but they seem to love to do that, so probably that. I don't really know what other games. I don't think they're going to do a fighting game. I think that would be stupid. They did hire some ex-BioWare employees, but they're like Anthem BioWare, not like Dragon Age or Mass Effect BioWare, I think, those folks. But that would be my next suggestion. A true adventure game in the vein of Knights of the Old Republic, Dragon Age, Mass Effect. A true RPG, a single-player experience, but more along the lines of like Dragon Age Origins, the original one, where you make a character, you have a bunch of different racial options that impacts the different storylines, you choose your background, and you make those D&D things, right? Like it's noble background, it's sage background, it's whatever. High elf, wood elf, you choose that, you build a party through the adventuring, and you level up, but like your decision making is important. Maybe you do that whole Paragon, Renegade, or light side, dark side, however you want to do it, but you have an ongoing story where you can have the romance options and you can do the different things and rally the armies. You set it in the Forgotten Realms or some D&D setting, and that way, if you want to know more information about the lore of what you're doing in the game, there are a whole series of tomes that you can go read. Like, maybe it's set in Eberron, you can go read an Eberron book. Or, man, that was so fun, I really liked that section of the game, but I wish it went this way. Well, why don't we sit down at a table and play it out? Let's make characters and let's do it that way. Or I really like the setting of that world, I'm going to use that to build my next campaign. That's a game that I would play, right? I really like those style games, Mass Effect and Dragon Age, Knights of the Old Republic, those kind of adventure games. It's a single-player experience. And I think that would do well. I think that would be... There are a ton of people who just play BioWare games and those kind of RPGs just because of what they are. If you tie it to D&D and then you could take that experience to the table, like to the RPG table, that would be a good call. And then the last one would be like a Neverwinter Nights 3 type of game, which would be something that fully incorporates, like Neverwinter Nights used to do, the full digital tool set, basically, of 5th edition. So if I sit down at a table, or I sit down at my computer, rather, and I play Neverwinter Nights 3, I can understand 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons in theory, right? It's the races, it's got the ability score adjustments, it's got the feat options, all that stuff. I can see that it's randomly generating so that I could decide if I was going to take this concept and sit down at a table, then I know, like, okay, that's where I would roll, and that's how that thing would work. I mean, Neverwinter, the MMO, is still going strong, I guess, but I don't know if MMOs are doing well enough to make a Dungeons & Dragons MMO. Their old one, D&D Online from 3rd edition, is still going. They're still putting out new content for it, I think, too. And then they have Neverwinter, which they're releasing new things to tie with new game releases. But I don't know if they want to do a new MMO. I don't know if there's money to do a new MMO, if there's a reason to do that. But I'm curious what you guys think. Sorry this turned into me talking about video games, but I'm curious. We know it's not going to be all the cool digital toolset plan ideas that we had in the last video. It's going to be video games. So 5 video games. I gave you guys 5, even though I kind of swept the MMO under the rug there. Did I only give you 4? I think I only gave you 4. Whatever. Let me know what your top 5 D&D based video games would be in the comments down below. I'm curious to see what you think. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this short video, and I'll see you next time.